Chat, let's start the show.
Good evening, everyone. How are you? Welcome to another episode of the Happy Hour Show with Lindsey Vertner. And you know how we do. Make sure that you grab a drink and join the chat right now because it's about to go down, okay? So if you don't know who I am, my name is Lindsey Vertner, and I am your host of the Happy Hour Show. I'm a peak potential strategist and transformational speaker. I teach ambitious, busy female entrepreneurs and leaders how to master their mindset and increase their self-care, self-worth, and self-discipline. I love what I do, and I can't wait to introduce my guest because we're going to talk about all the things with life and business, okay? And if you are tuning in right now, then comment all the way live in the comments. And if you're catching the replay later on, I still heart you. Comment replay all day, okay? Because we love you too. Either way, make sure you comment, love, and share this video out because you never know who's going to need the goods just as much as you. So join in, grab a drink, and join the chat. I see you already popping in there. Angelique says, good evening, Lindsey. Thank you for the invite. Anytime. We love you here on the Happy Hour Show. We keep it real, and I'm super excited to introduce tonight's guest. Her name is Jillian Ryan, and she is a corporate social responsibility expert and the founder and CEO of Mae Company. After spending a decade advising Fortune 100 clients on how to conduct and facilitate responsible investments in Africa, Jillian wanted to do more to support the underserved entrepreneurs in emerging markets and here at home. So blending her business expertise with her penchant for fine paper products, Mae Company, a corporate gifting service where every gift gives back, became her vehicle for making a difference in the world. So please welcome tonight's Happy Hour Show guest, Miss Jillian Ryan. Hello,
Hi.
Jillian. How are you?
Good.
I am well. How are you?
Great. Been stuck in the house for way too long.
Right. As we all are. This cabin fever, right?
I know. It's driving us all a little cuckoo.
Mm-hmm. Cuckoo
But
for
thank
Cocoa
you.
Puffs. Did
Exactly.
I just say it to myself? Is that cereal still around?
I don't know, but now it sounds amazing.
Cereal
Thank
game.
you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. So thank
My
you.
pleasure. My pleasure. And I know I just shared a little bit about your background, but I want you to peel back the curtains and tell us, who is Jillian Ryan really? Like, what's your background? Give us the good tea that only your girlfriends get.
Well, if you ask my sisters, so I'm the oldest of three girls. So I came slightly bossy, but I always laugh when I hear my bio when it talks about the nerdy love of paper products. So ridiculous. I literally asked Santa for an overhead projector when I was in first grade. And then the next year I asked for a copy machine. Absolutely ridiculous. So anyways, apparently who knew that this business ended up being a dream come true?
Listen, success clues all the time when we're looking for our purpose.
I know.
All along, and if we would just connect the dots.
Exactly. It took me a while to catch on. So anyway, so I grew up here in Texas with my parents and my two sisters. Went to college here, ended up taking an internship in DC that I kind of just half-heartedly applied for. And it ended up being the best thing of my life. So took that, ended up living there for 10 years. Adored DC. And I was really helping, again, fell into this job. I was an econ major and then got an international business masters. But I was helping companies when they were going into different places in sub-Saharan Africa on how to figure out, it was to mitigate geopolitical risk, but at the end of the day, that means be nice. Like, don't be a crappy company. So anyways, so that's what I did for 10 years, then got the entrepreneurial bug, started this kind of on accident. And yeah, so that's kind of where we are today. So now it's me.
That should be on a shirt. Hashtag don't be a crappy company.
Right? Like, it's not that hard, but apparently it is.
I'm sure that there were some crazy, crazy stories. And so as you were going along your journey when you were growing up, like, what did you aspire to do? Because you said you kind of fell into this. So what did little Jillian want to do with her life?
I originally wanted to be a lawyer, and then realized I was way too much of an introvert to be a lawyer, unless I wanted to do contract law all day, which I did not. And then I'm aging myself here, but then 9/11 happened when I was in college. And then that was also the time of Alias with Jennifer Gardner. And so I was convinced I really wanted to work for the CIA. So that was going to be definitely what I was doing. So I was just going to DC until I then got my master's, and I was going to work for the CIA. But then ended up figuring out I loved it from the private sector side so much more. So, because that was the whole reason. So the job I had in DC was working for, it was first President Bush's national security advisor, and his National Security Council had started this international business consulting firm. And so I was like, oh, that's a great stepping stone, not realizing I would actually love it from that side. So I'm a big believer that you can affect a lot of change from using business as a force for good. So that's where kind of then my whole rest of my career has gone from there. So
international business consulting, say it again.
Yeah, international business consulting. In DC, it was known as geopolitical risk was what we did. And it was, they were going into countries they knew nothing about. And how did they make sure it was not risky from a political standpoint, from an economic standpoint? And again, at the end of the day, just do good. Like, stop going in there and taking everything out and not hiring any local people. And it's like, it's not that hard. So anyway,
well, you'd be surprised. It's like how they say common sense isn't so common.
It's not common. No. So anyways, but yes, so I loved that. Loved it. Our clients were fantastic. And something I say all the time is that they tried to do good, but a lot of times they didn't know how. And they didn't really think through what that meant operationally. Like, they would have these nice, pretty reports at the top, and nobody would ever tell the people in country or the field people like how to do something. So anyways, I'm getting in the weeds of that, but I do love that field.
In that business, just working in DC and under, the presidential cabinet and all of those things, did you ever hear any secrets? Or if you told us you would have to kill us?
Well, it was fun. This was DC 10, 15 years ago. So nothing like it is at the moment. Back when it was a little more congenial between the two parties. And so it was always just so nice because you realized everywhere else outside of the country, it was such infighting between the two, but there you were all allowed to think differently and you could actually talk about it. And you were friends with people on the other side of the aisle. Like, it's nothing like it is now. But anyway, I won't take us to a political rabbit hole either. So anyways.
In doing that, like you said, you fell into it and you were working in DC as a geopolitical climate. I feel like I messed it up.
I was fine. Geopolitical risk analyst. Yeah.
I was almost there.
You were close.
Geopolitical risk analyst. Then tell us how you started to kind of mesh that into being an entrepreneur.
So I first then took off and was doing my own consulting. But I came back to Texas because my family's still here and it was cheaper to start a business here. And so I was like, okay, I'll come back to Texas, start doing consulting, but it would be for the oil and gas guys because that's who's here doing business internationally. And quickly realized that's not what I wanted to do. And so while I was trying to get the consulting up and running, there was a group in Rwanda that a friend of mine was actually working with, and it was a sewing cooperative. And they were really needing some help. They've asked for help on like learning some business basics was a lot of what it was, because they were started by a nonprofit. And so it wasn't people that had a lot of business experience that were helping get this stuff run. And so I was like, yeah, I would love to come. Maybe I hired a local teacher there because, again, there's nothing that drives me crazier when white women fly into Africa acting like they know what they're talking about. So I was like, I am not doing that. And they're like, you're not flying all the way here.
And not take notes, people. Take notes. There's nothing like flying into Africa,
right? And actually like to do what they're Exactly. Drove me crazy. On the comments, I'm in Dallas, North Dallas. So I ended up, in case you were wondering what a nicer way to do this is than being a white woman flying into Africa, acting like you know what you're doing. I hired a local teacher there to come in and actually us work together into working with this group for 2 weeks and really figuring out where the bottlenecks in production were and how helping them like figure out how to go after local markets. Cause that was my other thing. They were selling to Americans and I was like, Americans are fickle. Like we need to find you actual real markets here so that they don't move on to their next cause. And so, like I said, I am an open book around here.
We love open books on the Happy Hour Show. Hashtag no judgment zone.
So anyways, did that. And so the whole reason then I started Marie Mae was like, I didn't want to go after a government grant to do this. I was like, no, this is when I was being too stubborn and too Texan, I always say, to go for government money on this. And I was like, I can find a way to pay for this. So I launched 2 stationery sets. It was ridiculous. I launched 2 stationery sets and I was like, okay, this will be basically the fundraiser for, because like I told you, I did love paper products. And so launched that to try to pay for just doing that one trip. And then, yeah, it ended up taking off a whole lot more than I thought it was going to. It was crazy, which I'll talk about at some point on why now we're doing consulting on this. Cause I finally figured out what it was, why it took off, because it was the impact like I wanted to make. And it was the impact the customers wanted to make like through buying through us, but it was also the impact that was needed. And it wasn't just like, I was like, I think you have to get right at that center for it to then, it was crazy. Like we had Ellen calling us. We had like, it was crazy. Not after that year, but anyways, so that's how we started. So,
well, since you brought it up, we want all the tea on the Ellen.
That it was fun. We've been in her box, her Be Kind box for the last 2 years. So they were actually really good. So yeah, but yeah, they came to us, which again was also crazy. And our biggest one was, this is when I finally decided to make this into a real company and not just a side business, was when FabFitFun, which is a big subscription box out of California, came to us. And when I say us, at that point, it was literally just me and my baby sister was being nice to help sometimes. And so they were like, we'd like to buy 300,000 boxes of stationery. And I was like, okay. Literally Googling, like, how do you ethically produce? No clue at that point. The answer is you find good partners, but
and I love that you were,
and you find good partners and you just keep going. But, anyways, yeah. So that was when it became an actual real company. And then I think our first like big press piece was around then too in BuzzFeed. And I still remember sitting at brunch and like I kept getting all these orders for this one same product, and none of them were people I knew. So I was like, what is going on here? Normally it's like, Mom, are you buying something again? But no. Anyways, so that was,
I know that feeling.
Right. So that was probably 4 years ago. And then, yeah, staffed up. And then we were finally hitting like crazy growth at the end of 2019, which was insane. And then we entered COVID with we had such growth that we had 0 products to sell when COVID hit and our entire supply chain shut down. So that was fun too. Don't become an entrepreneur unless you want to age about 20 years.
Right. Oh, yes. So definitely being an entrepreneur is not for the faint at heart. And I would like to talk about your journey just a little bit more because you mentioned one, having a pivot. You were sold out and then COVID hit and all of your distribution centers like shut down, your manufacturing shut down. So you mentioned that, but before we hit on that, you mentioned it was just you and sometimes your sister helped whenever she was feeling nice, right? So talk about that process, because I think a lot of people just have entrepreneurship in lights because our society is so microwave fast these days. Everybody wants it now. And so they think that, oh, if I start a business, then I'm going to make $1 million in a year. And I'm going to get a job and I'm going to do this. I'm going to travel the world and I'm going to do this. And not that that doesn't happen, but
it just takes about 10 years. So as long as you keep going.
Tell us about that. So as you started your business, did you ever have any feelings of loneliness, or what obstacles did you have to overcome as you started your business?
Definitely loneliness. You constantly question your sanity. You're like, wait, what am I doing? And especially when you first start, because you can tell they're being supportive because they think that's what they're supposed to do, but they're looking at you like, has she lost her mind? Like, why is she doing this? Especially, I went from a good paying consulting job to I was then selling like notebooks. And they're like, what are you doing? I was like, no, guys, I know there's something here. So yes, constant questioning of sanity. My biggest piece of advice on what helped me and all that stuff was getting other entrepreneur friends. And so therefore you could have these frank discussions of, I've been crying for an hour because this is so hard. Please tell me I'm not by myself in this. So that definitely helps. But yes, I've said all along that the hardest part of the entrepreneurial journey is this. I was gonna say, getting out of here. It's crazy. And like, I thought I was sane and normal and well-equipped until I started my own business. And I was like, oh my goodness. Like, I always thought, because, entrepreneurs are always a little kooky. And so like, I'd always thought, oh, it must be the crazy ones that start their own businesses. But then I realized, no, it's the ones that started their own businesses that drove them crazy. Like, what it does to us.
Over here in the comments, Angelique says, plan on losing money first.
Yeah.
I mean,
for years. Yeah.
Geez Louise, it does not happen overnight, okay? There's a saying that it takes 10 years to make an overnight success. Yep. The world thinks it was overnight, but behind the scenes, they've been grinding it out and hustling and sweating, had 50 million no's and 50 million doors closed way before they hit their peak. And so
it's just people finally pay attention at that about 10-year mark.
Right.
They're like, oh, you haven't been watching what I've been doing for the last 10 years.
Right. And then you mentioned the mindset, and that's so important, as you may know or may not know. For my viewers out there, mindset mastery is my area of expertise. And so I understand how important and crucial our thoughts and our mindset is to every single thing we do. Our mindset is at the core of everything in our personal lives and our professional lives. And unless we get our mindset under control, it doesn't matter if you have the best systems, doesn't matter if you have the best support team, the best of everything, the best of the best of the best of the best. If you don't have your mindset in check, then it's going to be short-lived and you're going to end up who knows where, depressed.
Broke. Yes. Trust me. Yeah, because that was definitely go from working 40 hours to 80 hours minimum. I know. Never being able to shut it off. Yeah.
Oftentimes people don't realize, like, yes, you start a business to have that freedom, but when you're first starting your business, you're going to be working more likely than you were
way less
corporate job.
Yeah. Yep. But again, I was like, every time that I'm not now doing this to where, like, now I love it. Right. In case anyone on my team is watching, don't worry, we're not shutting down. But I still remember, like, when it was just me and I was going through it, and there would be those days and you're like, oh my goodness, there's zero money in the bank. Why am I doing this? I moved back in with my parents for a while, like cliche, after owning my own house in DC. Like, it's a very humbling experience to be an entrepreneur too. But then I would go and look at job descriptions. I was like, okay, I'm just going to go find a job. And then as soon as I started looking at them, I was like, no, I hate this. I'll make this work. not want to go back to working for someone else. I don't care if I am working for 80 hours.
I understand. Over here in the comments, Melissa says, this is fantastic. Great, honest talk. Lindsey, you're so right on mindset. We need to continue working on it over and over. And it is an ongoing process. A lot of times people think like, oh, if I just adjust my mind one time, then I'm good. But no, we are.
Then you wake up the next day. Yeah.
And so it's an ever evolving process. And every new level you reach, you have a new level of mindset issues that you have to overcome to continue to be sustainable and successful. Angelique says, I personally believe people quit because they don't seriously consider the investment of time it takes to run a business. Yes, not just financial.
I think a lot of times people also think when it's so hard that therefore it must mean it's a bad idea. It's not. Like, to say, it's hard. Like, you have got a lot of momentum going against you at the beginning. And I had a mentor of mine tell me very early on, he was like, you don't have to be the smartest person in the room. You just have to be the most persistent. And so that was one of the things that has stuck with me the whole time. I was like, okay, I can do that. Like, just keep asking. You can do it.
Consistency is definitely key. And then when you're having all the big bucks, you hire all the smartest people to run all the different areas. It definitely takes the financial investment often, time investment, energy investment. I talk about
hair investment,
hair dye.
Hair dye investment,
first class payments. And in that, we talk about being a wise investor. The I in life stands for investor, and not just investor of money, but of your time and energy. And so you have to be really self-disciplined when you want to start a business, that you are mindful of how you're investing, not only your money, but also your time and energy.
Yep. That's why, to me, it was so important to me that it was something like, I'm doing it because I am so passionate about people using their business for good. And I didn't even talk about so we've ended up in Marie Mae, we do corporate gifting, because that was one of the places. It was to me, that was hands down the easiest way for a company to make a difference with money they were already spending is to actually be smart on these gifts and swag that you buy. One, get stuff people actually like. And two, it's such an easy way to make an impact. So we source from all small businesses, artisan-based businesses, all US-based stuff for our paper products, which is hard to find. And so they are making such an impact just from what we're sourcing on this kind of stuff. And then for each box that we sell, I provide an hour. No longer am I working in Africa on this stuff. I wanted to do something closer to home. And so I'm working with trafficking survivors actually here in the Dallas area on how do you actually get a resume together? How do you, a lot of theirs is mindset too, because they have been so crushed to say that having to get out there and do a job interview and be confident about it. Anyways, I love that piece of it. So you've got to have that kind of stuff to keep going, to me.
Exactly.
Otherwise it's hard.
Over in the comments, Melissa agrees with Angelique. She says, yes. And Monica says, when establishing your business, did you implement your plan to the letter, or was there wiggle room for flexibility? So you know what? Pause. You got a sneak peek. We're going to come back to your question whenever we do 30-second hot shot in a little bit.
Ooh, I like it.
Forget that question. Just forget it. In your mind. Angelique says, you have to love what you're doing so much so that you do it even if you weren't making money. Absolutely. Because then you just become a slave to your business. And as far as I know, most entrepreneurs do not start a business to then become a different type of slave.
Exactly. For a poorly paying one. You're like, no. I know. And then you've also got to deal with crappy clients until you then, as I say, it's always a process. So yeah, but yes, you have to love it.
Angelique says, that's awesome, Jillian. And Renette says, wow, that is wonderful, Jillian. Yes, absolutely. And I think that this would be just a great time for a little segment that I like.
What's in your cup?
I love it.
Watching myself. Listen, this is the part of the show where we find out exactly what's in your cup. So for all my viewers at home, make sure you go to the comments right now and put what you're sipping on. And if you don't have a drink in your hands, it's okay. Just put what you wish you were sipping on, okay? So first our guest is going to share what she's drinking, and then she's going to give some cup cam.
Oh, I love it.
And tell us what's in your cup, Jillian.
Yeah. Oh, you have to get in front. See, 90 years old. Why can't I use a webcam? What's wrong with me? Anyways, it's just cranberry Sprite, so not all that fun tonight. But yes,
your cup
I love
is fun.
Yeah, I'd say the cup is fun.
Hold it up some more. Yes, that looks very chic, like a chic tumbler.
I
As
do love
for
it.
me and my drink, I'm drinking good old H2O because I'm currently on a fast. So you're probably like, oh my gosh, why is it brown?
I was like, there's something wrong with your water.
Yes, so listen, this is actually clean water. I'm not drinking dirt water, but I did allow myself to, as long as they didn't have any additives or calories or anything, just the flavor packets in the water. So this is sweet tea flavored water is
Yum.
what I have in here. I keep shaking it because I'm always like, the powder's going to come back. I can never shake it enough. Over here in the comments, Renette is drinking water. Melissa's also having water. So listen, we are having just a healthy time on today.
I know. It's like
Angelique is bringing the party. She has an ice cold bottle of Dos Equis. Way to bring the party.
I love
it.
I want that on a beach at the moment. That's what I want.
Right. I'll be back to my party drinks on next week. Journey is having iced green tea. Sweet.
I like
it.
it.
So I've got Southern sweet tea in my water, and you've got some green tea. Nice.
I love it.
Thank you for sharing that. And so getting back in this discussion, and yes, you guys keep drinking, or excuse me, keep commenting. Look, you would think that I had the Dos Equis. I'm drunk off water, guys. Keep commenting what you're drinking. Looks like Monica has water in full effect as well. And so listen, tonight is like a water themed night, and we promise we didn't plan this. Cynthia has coconut water. Getting back into the conversation. So you are doing corporate gifting. You've had all this success. You had to get over your mindset. And so what were the ways that you had to overcome that doubtful mindset? And am I crazy as you started your entrepreneurial journey?
I think I had to get to the point, because I'm still fighting it, especially now that we are expanding more into consulting services this year. Everything that I thought I'd gotten over and had fixed in my mindset is all coming back. So yeah, I think I finally gotten to the point to know that this is normal though. And so therefore, like, I'm someone who also deals with anxiety. And so it's one of those things, once I have finally learned, just don't give into it and know this is just how you are, then it does make it at least a little bit easier. And once I figured out, nobody else knows what they're doing either. So, so we're fine. We're fine. And I think the longer you go in building a business or just your journey in general, like I feel like you finally start learning to trust yourself a little more, that even if you don't know what it is, that you'll figure it out. Like I said, with the Googling how to manufacture 300,000 boxes of stationery. Like, I had no business saying yes to that, but we figured it out. But then we still have mishaps along the way on that kind of stuff. Like, so most recently we were in Ellen's box last December. And so with 2020 being what it was, I really wanted some of the women that I was working with on the business class side had all gotten laid off at the beginning of COVID, which is just horrendous. And So I was trying to find ways that they could have some extra work. And so I was like, okay, so we got this deal with Ellen. We were doing these postcard sets. And this one was, they were doing 75,000 of these postcard sets. And so I was like, okay, in order to give them work, let's have it printed here locally. And then we'll bring it in house and I'll hire all of them. And then we'll get those things packed and we'll take them back, shipped out, done. It'll take a week. Wow. When my operations manager and then the ladies have been like, you're not allowed to time estimate anything again. It ended up being, oh my word, insane. Absolutely insane. I don't think I could comprehend how many 75,000 was, but it ended up taking like 3.5 weeks to pack these things out. We had a team going of like 10 people, 12 hours, like we took shifts, 12 hours a day. Like it was absolutely crazy. So afterwards, it was insane. I was like, so again, good intentions, but yeah, afterwards my operations manager was like, let's not do that again. And I was like, yeah, why did I not think? Just tell my printer that for them to have the job, they had to hire these ladies. Like there could have been a much easier way than us driving a U-Haul around trying to figure out how to do this. So
hey,
yeah.
You live and you learn. But what's important is that you didn't give up and you kept going. And exactly. I think the fear of failure stops people from just moving and acting on a lot of different things, whether it's their goals or starting a business or, you know, maybe you want to take acting classes or whatever it is for you in your life. A lot of us have that fear of failure and that paralyzes us to not doing anything. And it's important to know that we have to start somewhere and eventually we improve as we go along. We get better, but you can't improve upon nothing. You got to do something and then say, okay, that didn't quite work.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Done that better.
Exactly. On the do not do again. We are not renting a U-Haul to move 75,000 postcard sets around. But it was so funny because again, this is where my mindset of being a risk consultant before really actually hurt me at the beginning of this, because my whole job was helping these companies. And I don't know if you guys know about the Enneagram, but I'm also a 6, which is the kind of person that's always like doing the doomsday planning anyways. And so I will sit there before doing something and like try to game plan it every which way to figure out what's the best route to do this and how can I make sure we don't fail. But then all you end up doing is nothing. So then, and a lot of times I finally figured out you can't figure it out until you do it. Like you have to do it and then get the feedback. Like
that was
you can't
perfect.
do it.
Yes. Because Angelique just commented, don't do nothing. And so that was absolutely perfect. And she says, are you sure it's not vodka? Scout cider. I promise it's not vodka. Wait, I don't even know what the Scout cider is.
I think that might be the Star Trek thing.
Scout cider. I promise it's water with the flavored tea packet.
I love it.
And so you had to get over it. And then you made improvements. You realized, okay, this isn't going to work. We have to regroup. And I'm sure eventually, because you mentioned, you know, having that help, but I'm sure you seeked out mentors and coaches, because sometimes people think that if I just Google everything, I'll get the business that I want. You'll find every answer. Get so far on free university, right? At some point, you have to make the conscious and intentional decision to say, okay, I'm going to invest in my improvement and I'm going to hire a consultant or hire a coach or hire a mentor that's going to take me to that next level. So at what point did you decide, all right, listen, I can't, I need to hire an expert to help me?
Several times throughout this journey. And again, as a former consultant, I was then also the worst enemy of this because I just thought, oh, I can figure it out. But when it's your own business, you cannot because you're too much in the weeds. And so, yeah, I ended up hiring. I'm trying to think. This year, we've been on a mega hiring spree, mainly because our business actually, corporate gifting, did really well in the pandemic. And again, it was one of those things that this is part of my mindset. I felt guilty that it was doing really well. So I also made sure that we hired a ton. So I was like, no, this is our way. People need jobs, like, and we can give them right now. So let's do it. But I hired a money mindset coach that helped a ton that I didn't realize, because we kept having all of these opportunities come our way that were amazing. And then I just wouldn't close them. And then finally I realized, she helped me realize, it's because I felt guilty closing them. Like I felt like I was doing something wrong, taking that money. She's like, who are you helping being broke? Yeah, no.
Right.
So anyways, that's helped. I hired a coach this time to help me get the new consulting services, because I knew imposter syndrome would start coming all up in here. So I knew I needed somebody beside me to hold me accountable and say, you can do this. And then a lot in 2020 in the mental health space. So to not lose our minds around here. So,
Right.
Yeah.
So she had multiple people helping her. So for all of you out there that are like resistant, like, nope, I can just Google it. Well, again, you're only going to get so far. You're only going to get so far with all the books you read. Eventually, you have to hire that expert to help you out. So she had a mindset coach. She had a money mindset coach. She had, you named a therapist. Everybody needs a therapist.
Definitely. Yeah, exactly. I know a friend in DC the other day was like, because he knew I have panic attacks, or used to have panic attacks. And he was like, I feel like I shouldn't be asking, but I want to ask, like, are you doing okay and all this? And I was like, actually, I'm doing great. I was like, but it's because I made sure to staff all this stuff up. I was like, you just knew you had to have a lot in your corner to make it through here. So.
Yes. And listen, I see all these questions coming in, and there is a question specifically for me that says, why did you do my question like that, Lindsey? And listen, I've been feeling bad ever since that comment came in. And this is why I did the question like that, Miss Monica. It's because there's a special segment for questions alone for our special guest, Miss Jillian Ryan, okay? And that segment is called
30-second hot shot. Answer the question in 30 seconds or less, or take your shot.
Yes, 30-second hot shot.
I like it.
Why? Once I realized that your comment was a question, I was like, no, we gotta wait.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Hold on.
listen, no hard feelings, Monica. It was all out of love. And your question is up first. Okay. So if you are new to the Happy Hour show, 30-second hot shot is where our special guest, Miss Jillian Ryan, has 30 seconds to answer your questions live right now. And if she misses the buzzer, she's got to take a shot of her sparkling Sprite over there.
Exactly. I love it.
Yes, lots of shots of carbonation. So let me get my handy dandy timer going. You actually got a hint of this question already because I made a faux pas earlier. Timer 0, 30 seconds. All right, so let's get to it. I am going to read the question and then start the timer, and then you have your answer, okay? So Monica asked, when establishing your business, did you implement your plan to the letter, or was there wiggle room for some flexibility? Go.
Well, the quick answer there is definitely flexibility. So I had this nice, pretty plan, and it gets chucked out the window about 2 weeks in. So no, you've always got to allow for a ton of flexibility. And I feel like, again, what we saw this year when everything shut down and everyone had to pivot, like if I had stuck to the plan, like we would not have, survived. So definitely flexibility. You have to just be willing to roll with the punches. So.
You actually did that in 30 seconds.
I never do anything in 30 seconds. So I'm
well, maybe that deserves a shot still.
I know, right?
So we normally have the next question, but I do want to take just a moment to expand on that a little bit, because I think it's very important in our current climate, because so many people struggled with pivoting when COVID hit. It was a global pandemic. And so a lot of people, depression was increased, anxiety was increased, but then there was the other half that was thriving. So I do want you to just expand a little bit before we get to the next question on, how did you truly pivot
So thankfully we were forced. And so, because like I said, we had just had this crazy hyper growth right before everything hit. And we ended up having this pop up at a Dallas women's event, literally like 3 days before everything shut down. And that pop up went so well that I literally during the pop up had to go back to our office, and I was taking notebooks that we had on the wall down to go sell them because these women were buying everything. So it was crazy. But then COVID hit. And again, I was a consultant that knew you should have a diversified supply chain. So I did not expect to have New York, Rwanda, and Haiti all shut down at the same time. So, yeah, we then shut down with 0 products. And I was like, oh my gosh, we're never going to survive this. We have nothing to sell. And then clients kept calling and calling. And so I was like, that same coach I was talking about was like, maybe you should stop hiding from the clients that are calling and trying to pay you and figure out something to do. Oh, good idea. So I ended up calling some other friends of mine that have their own businesses that I knew had really stocked up for Joanna Gaines' Spring at the Silos that she does every year. And so that had gotten canceled like as people got there and packed. So I was like, okay, I know they have inventory on hand. How can we put some boxes together? So we ended up putting together an at-home wellness kit and an at-home productivity kit for the clients that were calling saying they wanted to send something to their employees. Didn't have any products of ours in it. This is the first time we'd ever had an all curated box. And then, yeah, it was good. And then we ended up having Teach for America came our way, and they bought like 400 boxes that, again, my operations manager was doing out of her house that week. And then more branches and more branches and more branches of Teach for America came in and basically saved us. And then, yeah, it was crazy. It was nice to see all of these companies that were really wanting to reassure their employees. Mm-hmm. And so they were wanting to send these basically work from home kits, basically to say, you're not getting fired. We're all in this together and we'll figure it out. So anyways, it was nice to be a part of it. So
Sweet.
Yeah.
Well, the next question is from Miss Angelique, and she says, Jillian, I'm wanting to get into consultant for project management. I have my master's and was working on my doctorate until COVID hit. What tips do you have on getting started? Go.
Well, so are you still with the school? I would say my biggest tip always is no matter what age you are, to try to get an internship at a big name has always been my thing. Just for that, to get that name on there, and especially in consulting, to try to figure out how you quickly get the credibility. And I've always found that typically schools will help you with that kind of stuff too. And right now, people are scared to hire full-time. So I feel like they'll be doing internships all you want. And I'm coming from DC where people of all ages and Ivy Leaguers with everything would come in to do their internships. So it was like, it was normal. Here in Dallas, it's not quite as normal.
Take a shot. You missed.
Oh, I didn't even realize it was
right. And everybody that's listening and watching at home, take a shot of your drink too. That means I've got to take a shot of my water.
I like it. See, I was just helping us
out. On my acting face.
I know.
When I'm strong. The next question comes from Miss Melissa, and she says, what do you feel is better? Analysis like crazy or just get it out there? Go.
So I feel like for me, I had to finally get okay with doing enough analysis to figure it out like 60% of the way. And then you have to get it out there. You're not going to figure it out to where I was comfortable with it because you just can't. You have to get the feedback from the market. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times you'll waste a lot of time trying to figure it out when you could just try to sell it once. And anyways, I'll be quiet since my 30 seconds are coming.
You did good decision. You made it with 2 seconds to spare. And that's so true. That goes back to what we were speaking about earlier about how progress is better than perfection. And you got to do something at least. Sometimes we get so paralyzed with wanting everything to be just right. All our ducks in a row has to be perfect. And what ends up happening is that we end up doing nothing. And then we're upset with ourselves because, oh, I had this dream and here it is a year later. I still haven't done anything. Yep. Think how far you could be if you would have just started. And like we mentioned earlier, you can't improve upon nothing. Yep. So get it out there, see what you can work on, and grow as you go. That should go on a shirt too. Grow.
I know. I like that. I feel like it's a TV show. Was it when like Reading Rainbow when we were kids? Yeah.
Yes. Grow as you go. In the comments, Angelique says, not currently. So I'm assuming that's from your previous question about still at the school. And perfect. Thank you. She appreciated it.
You could even, just because I can never be quiet on giving career advice, but you could even on something like that, because I know we all have to pay our bills at the moment. I'll say, but you could even go to a company that you were wanting to work for and just see if you can help with a project or something like that, to where you're getting something with that name on there, but it's not near as cut and dry as I always thought it was. Like I would have never done that beforehand. And now I'm like, oh, I would totally take someone up on that if they came and asked me. Yes, we'd love to.
And we have one last question. Renette says, please tell me about your product. I came in late. So first, make sure you go back and watch the replay so that you can catch everything we've discussed. But you go ahead and take it away. Tell us about your product in 30 seconds.
Ooh. We do corporate gifting that all gives back. And so everything's ethically sourced, super pretty products. We also do branded products, but again, stuff that people want. That's been my thing. It was like, stop buying swag. People are just leaving in their hotel rooms. Like, no, stop wasting that money. So that's what we do. And then right now we're expanding into consulting services, helping companies like actually turn their business into a force for good in a way that also propels their business.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sweet. And you had time to spare.
Look at me.
Right. Yes. You only made us all take one shot, but
I know, only one.
So I have a question that I have to ask every single last one of my guests, because as I mentioned earlier, I'm all about living a first-class life. And what that means is that you shed away those masks of fear, those masks of doubt, those masks of living up to the expectations of other people and who they want you to be. And instead, you walk boldly and unapologetically in who you are, flaws and all. It's about being intentional about the life you are creating for yourself and trying to create happiness in every single moment that you can. So with that said, I have to ask you, Ms. Jillian Ryan, how do you intentionally create happiness in your life?
Ooh, I have to intentionally create quietness in my life, which then creates happiness. So one thing I've gotten great about in lockdown has been a good morning routine. So that really helps with the mental stuff and getting all that stuff, doing gratitude journaling. And then also the bike you see behind me, somehow 90s hip hop rides are my absolute favorites. that I'm very intentional about until I then hurt my back like an old lady.
Yes. 90s hip hop. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. Angelique says, I'm working now as a PM for a fire alarm installations company. I won't be broke while completing the internship. Thankfully, as an essential business, we stayed working through COVID.
Good.
Congratulations.
And I would just try, as I say, if you have a day job on that kind of stuff, I would just try to find some dream company that you've always wanted to work for, figure out a way to network in, and figure out a way to do a volunteer project for them, something to give you some expertise. Because again, I know that I had early on when I started Mae, there was, I don't even remember what school it was now. Like they had a whole internship program set up for it. They would just call different business owners and say, we've got a volunteer team. What's a consulting project that you could give them? So it's not unheard of. I just think it would be a great way to get that name on your resume and build a relationship with a company you want to work for. So
there you go. You heard it here, folks, right on the Happy Hour show.
I know. Always giving advice when not really asked.
No, it's good. It's good. We love whenever there are gems dropped on the Happy Hour show. The viewers and listeners absolutely appreciate it because we are all about helping you to get your life together. And we have fun while we're doing it, okay?
Otherwise, it's not worth it.
Stuffiness in the world. There is enough rigidness in the world. Like, we got to let our hair down. And trust me, whether you are in corporate world or you're an entrepreneur or somewhere in between, you are a stay-at-home person, everybody could use some more laughter and smile and just relax.
Exactly, I know. Stop being mean.
Yes.
Yep.
So do you have any final words that you would like to share with our viewers and listeners?
I feel like I was a little poo-pooey about entrepreneurship on this, but it's amazing. I definitely recommend it to anyone and everyone. I just don't want anyone thinking it's rosy because it's not. But it's good. I feel like it makes you so much stronger as a person that
Definitely.
It's hands down worth it. And we need good business owners out there. That's what my always thing is. I was like, no, like I want people that are trying to do good actually out there doing it. So
yes.
And you can do it in any job you're in. That's always been my thing. It was like, you don't all have to quit your jobs and go start a random nonprofit. I used to say, we need good people in jobs doing good things. So anyways, I'll stop teaching now. So
please don't quit your 9 to 5 until you have a nice game plan.
Yes.
Eventually, you got to make that step of faith if that's what you want to do. But if you like your 9 to 5, absolutely stay there.
Oh, yeah.
Because we need you in those places.
Exactly. We need good people there. Yeah.
You just have to, find that balance. There will be those days where you're working your 9 to 5 and then you go home and you're getting 2 hours of sleep because then you worked on your business. But if you truly want to go full time, then that's the sacrifices that you have to make. But at the same time, some people love their job and some people have no desire to be an entrepreneur. So you have to do what's right for you. Don't let society tell you what you should be doing right now. Do what's right for you, what's in your heart, and what's going to work for your life. Because at the end of the day, you are the only person that has to wake up with yourself and go to bed with yourself, not anybody else.
Yep.
So
I love it. I love it.
Melissa says, you ladies are amazing. This has been so fun, encouraging, and informative. I'm so glad I was here. And we're glad you were here, Melissa, and Angela, and Renette, and Monica, and all of the other viewers and listeners that were tuned in on tonight, because the Happy Hour show is all about you. So make sure that you tune in every Tuesday evening at 9 p.m. Eastern for another episode of the Happy Hour show with Lindsey Vertner. And tonight's special guest, I want to thank again Miss Jillian Ryan right over here.
Thank you. I was like, something I didn't say. If you do want to hear more of me gabbing, I do have a podcast. I was to say that I don't even think I had told you. So at mariemae.com, if you click on podcast, it'll take you, but it's called the Good Office Podcast. So
there you go. More life lessons at the Good Office Podcast. So you see her info right there. Make sure you go hit her up on Instagram at Mae Company. Go to her website, mariemae.com, and you can find her podcast and all of her goodness right there. She is a corporate gifting strategist. Make sure you connect, take a screenshot, push replay, whatever you need to do so that you can connect with our special guest. And make sure you stay updated on future episodes of the Happy Hour show by signing up for our VIP list, bit.ly/happy updates. That's where you can stay updated on all future episodes, special airings, and sometimes my guests like to give a happy hour special, but only if you're on the VIP list. So make sure you sign up. You see it scrolling across the bottom, bit.ly/happy updates. And again, thank you to our special guest. You see her info right there on the screen. And any final words? I know we had final words already, but any last final words?
No, but we got this. Yes. Somehow 2021 is trying to be throw us for a loop too, but it's not going to win.
Thank you again. And I want to thank all the guests. I know you could be doing anything in the world right now, but you are tuned in here with another episode of the Happy Hour show. And for that, I thank you. And I pray that you have a blessed and abundant night. And I will see you next Tuesday. Bye.